Hello guys, welcome to Wednesday's reading lesson. Today we are going to be having a look at writing some of the other types of comprehension questions. We're going to be looking at inference questions and how we can best write those. We're going to be looking at chronology questions. We're also going to be having a look at statements of fact and opinion. So, let's get on with it. Once again, we're going to stick with chapter 1 of the Nowhere Emporium, or I am going to be sticking with chapter 1 of the Nowhere Emporium. As ever, you can use your own texts that you're using at home. Before we move on, better to discuss what those three different terms mean. An inference question is a question where the answer requires the reader to not only think about what's in the text, but also to use their own opinion supported by evidence from the text. I always describe inference as being the clues that you use to solve a problem. You have to imagine yourself as sort of like a detective. The crime is not going to be easily solved. The person who's committed the crime is not just going to leave all the evidence you need right in front of you, but you are going to be able to find clues to work out who committed that crime. Inference is exactly that. Inference is finding out more than the writer, more than the author is actually telling you by using those inference skills, by picking up those clues. Inference is knowing that if somebody is sat on their own in the corner of a playground, holding their knees to their chest with tears running down their face, inference is knowing that that person is probably very sad and that something bad has happened, and then you would go over and you'd speak to them and see if you could help. They've not told you they're sad, but you're picking up those clues. Obviously, in this case, there would be lots of those big clues there. Sometimes there'll be a lot less clues, but we can still work things out. So that's inference. Chronology questions, they are to do with putting things back in order. So you can't do a chronology question until you have read this first full chapter, or in your case, your chapter or your section of your book. What you then do is you write key things that have happened in that section or that chapter, but you write them in the wrong order, and then somebody has to put them back in the right order. So for example, let's think of a story that everyone probably knows. So that's a tough one, a story that everybody knows. I'm going to go with things like The Hungry Caterpillar. That's one that a lot of children read when they were younger. The first thing that you might write down is the caterpillar goes into his chrysalis. The second thing might be the caterpillar eats an apple. The third thing you wrote down might be the caterpillar feels very hungry, and then you might write down the caterpillar turns into a butterfly. Obviously, that's now in the wrong order. The first thing would be the caterpillar begins to feel hungry. Then it would be that the caterpillar eats the apple. Caterpillar goes into his chrysalis. Caterpillar turns into a butterfly. That would be the correct chronological order. So that's how you do a chronology question. The final one that I said was that we are going to look at statements of fact and statements of opinion. Facts and opinion are tricky at times because sometimes somebody's opinion can be the same opinion that we have. And when we hear something that's the same opinion that we have, we often think of it as fact. So when we've done this in the past with groups in school, sometimes when the hero is described as being very brave, children will say, yes, the hero is very brave, that's a fact. But of course it isn't a fact. It is only an opinion. It's an opinion you agree with, and it might be an opinion that has lots and lots of things to back it up, but it is still only an opinion. The key thing to look for when you're trying to tell whether something is fact or whether something is opinion is whether or not it contains any adjectives. As soon as you see an adjective in there, if it's describing somebody, that is probably going to be an opinion. Saying something is beautiful is an opinion. Saying something is scary is an opinion. Saying something is happy or sad is an opinion. It might be an opinion with lots of evidence, but it is still an opinion. So, anyway, that's lots of chatter about those different things. Let's get on and have a read and see if we can think of some to write down. I'm going to start with a couple of inference questions. So, we go back to where we were and where we were reading. Glasgow, present day. Look out, coming through! Oi, watch where you're going, wee man. Sorry. Daniel Holmes darted through the Saturday shopping crowds in Glasgow, pushing and twisting and weaving. His lungs burned and his legs ached, but he did not stop. He couldn't stop. Spud Harper and his gang were chasing him, and everyone in the children's home knew that if Spud Harper was after you, you didn't slow down. So, I'm going to pause there. When writing inference questions, it's good to ask yourself, what do I know and what do I think I know? So at this point, I know that Daniel Holmes is darting and running through the shopping crowds in Glasgow. I know that. What I think I know is that he's scared of Spud Harper. I think that's why he's running away. But I've not been told that yet, which makes it a really good inference question. So that could be my first one. Because I think something but don't know it, that makes it the perfect inference question. So, question 1. That's a really bad apologies. At the start of chapter 1, comma, why is Daniel Holmes running through Glasgow? Oops. Now, what I'd like you to always think about when you're doing your inference questions is what your answer is. Now, we've talked about this one already. I think it's because he's scared of Spud Harper. So that could be my answer, because he is scared of Spud Harper. But we'd want to see a bit of evidence for that too. If you were happy for it to just be because he was scared of Spud Harper, then that would be a 1 mark question. If you think there needs to be more detail, you need to make that a 2 or a 3 mark answer. And if you were wanting a 2 or a 3 mark answer, you'd then be wanting some evidence. So your answer might be something like, at the start of chapter 1, why is Daniel Holmes running through Glasgow? I think Daniel Holmes is running through Glasgow because he is scared of Spud Harper. I think this, as he is described as, and then you can go back, everyone in the children's home knowing that if Spud Harper was after you, you didn't slow down, which suggests he is a scary character or a nasty character. There's a couple of other areas where we can get some good questions, good inference questions. So where we've got this section here, Spud and his gang were bigger than Daniel and faster and stronger. Sooner or later they'd catch him. He sprinted across the street, jinked into the nearest shop, and slammed the heavy door shut. He clutched at his chest and watched through the darkened glass of the door, crouching out of sight. He could hear Spud's gang shouting as they thundered past. I would start and really signal people to that chapter by thinking, what does that tell us about Daniel's feelings at this point? So, I'm going to put question 2 in the paragraph beginning, and then you want to say the exact quote, in the paragraph beginning, Spud and his gang were bigger. Single inverted comma, capital letter for Spud because it's his name. Spud and his gang were bigger. And then ellipsis because the quote does carry on. And then I'm going to have a comma. And then I'm going to put, how do you know that Daniel was scared, oops, missing the S, of Spud? And if we go back to it, Spud and his gang were bigger than Daniel, and faster and stronger. Sooner or later they'd catch him. He sprinted across the street, jinked into the nearest shop and slammed the heavy door shut. He clutched at his chest and watched through the darkened glass of the door, crouching out of sight. He could hear Spud's gang shouting as they thundered past. So my answer to that question, how do you know that Daniel is scared of Spud, would be that he was crouching out of sight and that he jumped into, or jinked into, as it says in the text, the nearest shop, and we know he's hiding from them. So that would be my answer. So as you can see, the key thing with inference questions is, as you're reading, to think, what do I know? What is being told to me for certain in the text? What do I think I know? And then you can ask people to explain how they know, or what evidence they can get to show what they know. Okay, let's have a look at a chronology question then. So far in our story, we've had Daniel running through the streets, Spud and his gang chasing him, darting into a shop, and then it moves on to him starting to look around. That's the chronology so far. Obviously, if you've been watching on YouTube, you've read further with me, so you know what else happens, so you could use some more. And if you're using your own book, you can use those bits too. But for a chronology question, it's nice and simple. You just write, put these events in chronological order. Chronological, just remember silent H on the word chronological. That word, that sort of root word, chrono or chrono, that's taken from ancient Greek and it means time. Logical means order and, well, order, really. So chronological literally means putting things in time order. Put these events in chronological order. Event number 1, Daniel jinks, I'm going to use the word straight out of the text, a shop to escape Spud. 2, Daniel darts between the shoppers. And 3, Daniel looks around the unusual shop. And then people have the chance to put those in order. So obviously it would actually be 1, Daniel darts between the shoppers. 2, Daniel jinks into the shop. 3, Daniel looks around the unusual shop. That would be the correct order. So 2, 1, 3. That leaves us on, or leads us, should I say? Sorry, it doesn't leave us. That leads us on to the final one. Statement of fact and opinion. Now, I said at the beginning that any time we use adjectives, that's normally a sign of these things being an opinion. So you want to be putting things in there that are a mix. So, in fact, decide whether the statements below, I'm going to move that, it's making my writing messy having that on the side. Statements below are facts or opinions. And then I'm going to write out some statements. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave a bit of space so that people can write whether they're a statement of fact or opinion. So I need to think about what's happened in the text. Now, it starts with Daniel running through the streets. So I'm going to put that because that's not going to contain any adjectives. That's just going to be literally what Daniel is doing, containing verbs. So Daniel ran through the streets of Glasgow. And obviously that is going to be a statement of fact. That is something that absolutely did happen. No adjectives, nothing that's an opinion based. Daniel ran through the streets of... I'm now going to do an opinion that I'm hoping will trick people into thinking it's a fact. So I'm going to put Daniel was scared, or maybe is scared, but Daniel was scared of Spud. Now, that's the sort of one that I think might trick people. Some people might think that's a fact, but of course it's got scared. It's got that past tense adjective. It's got that past tense verb, and it's an opinion-based thing. Whether or not someone's scared of things, that's going to be very difficult to say. Whether or not something is scary or whether or not someone is scared, that's purely opinion-based. So that's not going to be a fact. So we've got fact, opinion. We've got, fact, then opinion. Going to do one more. Could be either. Could go either way. I'm not going to say what this one is. I'm going to let you decide for yourself, and you can email me. Let me get words out. You can email me with whether you think this third one is a fact or whether you think this third one is an opinion. The shop that Daniel hid inside is extremely unusual. Is that a fact or an opinion? Okay, so that is your task for today, please. I'd like you to write 5 inference questions based on your text or on chapter 1 of Nowhere Emporium. I'd like you to write at least 1 chronology question, and I'd like you to write at least 1 of the statements of fact or opinion, please, based on, like I say, either your text or on the Nowhere Emporium. Thank you very much for listening again. Let me know how it goes. Please make sure, I've not said it on the other videos, but please make sure if you are getting some good bits of work completed, we would love to see those. So please send them to either me or to your class teacher, and they will make sure I've seen them, even if you send it to them. Thank you very much. I hope you're all doing very, very well. You're in all of our thoughts. I'll speak to you again tomorrow. Goodbye.